Okay. Good morning. So, Dr. Katsakis, Dr. Manesis, ladies and gentlemen, Kalimera. I'm sorry that my Greek is finishing here, so that's I will proceed with the English. I am Italian, as Dr. Katsakis mentioned. I am a senior public health specialist. I recently retired from WHO, from the World Health Organization, where I worked for the last 25 years, and I am now very much collaborating with the International Center for Migration and Health and Development that is based in Geneva. First of all, thank you for inviting ICMHD to participate with you today. It is a great pleasure to be with you and to be able to contribute some thoughts on this very important issue of changing patterns of infectious diseases and its implications. Sorry. I do not need to remind you, in Greece, which has always been a major exporter of people, that migration has always been a cornerstone of social and economic development. In absence of migration, most countries in Europe would have never been able to resolve their political, economic, and the agriculture problems. And Greece and so many other European countries would have never been able to contribute, as they did, to the development of the United States of America, Canada, and Australia. Between 1860 and 1930, over 65 million Europeans left for North America. Today, the challenge we are faced with is that instead of being a sending continent, Europe has become a focus of in-migration people from all over the world, but especially for people from Africa, Asia, the neighboring countries of the Mediterranean basin, the Balkans, and South America are eager to come to Europe. They are coming for the same reasons that people left the UK, Sweden, Germany, Greece, and Italy, that is to say, in search of economic and political security. Tragically, the reality is that the world is becoming less egalitarian. The gap between rich and poor countries is becoming wider. And within all countries, the gap between the rich and the poor has become more pronounced. Political security has also become scarcer, and we have never in recent history seen so many countries at war between each other and within themselves as we see today. The result of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is that more people are trying to leave their countries than at any other time in the last 100 years. Today, in the larger Europe, that is to say the EU and others, the World Health Organization believes that there are between 60 and 70 million so-called migrants. We say so-called because, of course, the term migrant covers so many different categories of people. It includes the refugees, many of whom are now forced from some of our neighboring countries, and in Italy we also know from Syria, from Palestine, from Egypt. And the Agency for the Refugees, UNHCR, believes that there are over 40 million refugees today from all over the world. The term migrant also includes economic migrants, and this constitutes the majority of the foreign-born in Europe. Most economic migrants come on contracts and with work permits, but a growing number are also arriving irregularly and having gone through very difficult and costly transits. Another group that we often forget are, of course, tourists, that while the time they spend traveling and staying in the countries they visit is short, they too must be taken into consideration when we discuss the issue. Last year, according to the World Tourism Organization based in Madrid, there were 1.87 billion tourists worldwide. That is about what is about the phenomenon of population movement that we should be concerned about? The first question is, where are they coming from? The second question is where they are coming to. And the third question is under what condition they are moving. The next question is into which conditions are they moving, living, and working. Most people moving for economic reasons are moving from countries with relatively high rates of tuberculosis, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C, and in some cases HIV/AIDS. This was also proved in, I think HBCPPA was a meeting in Athens, no? If I am not forgetting. To these traditional infectious diseases of concern in Europe, we now have to add, unfortunately, the possibility of polio, child-preventable diseases such as measles, and even meningitis. As we have been reminded over the last few months, we cannot either discount the movement or even more exotic diseases such as Ebola. And we have also to remember the very recent, in 2003, epidemic of SARS. In all of this, we are confronted today with a reality in which more people are moving than ever before. But to make the infectious diseases scenario even more challenging, we have the problem that they are also moving faster and further than ever before. They are moving across ecological zones and disease zones at a pace that is far faster than the incubation time of some of the diseases they may be carrying. Now, however, I must pause to remind you and myself that most migrants are usually young, healthy, and when they move, they don't constitute usually a major threat for health threat for European countries. For many of them, the problem is not where they are coming from. Sorry. For many of them, the problem is not where they are coming from, but rather the countries they are passing through and the time it takes them to reach their final destination. For it is in that process that new exposures often occur. Migration is a complicated process, and in a world where migrants in general are not liked or welcomed, many have to find circuitous pathways that often mean years on the road, stopping and working in difficult conditions and exposed to new diseases, or that activate or worsen existing conditions such as latent TB. For refugees living in market shift, crowded, poorly medicated camp conditions, tuberculosis remains a constant problem. Many refugees and migrants, moreover, are coming from countries where hepatitis B vaccination is still weak and where coverage is low. Broken families, community disorganization, physical promiscuity of many camp situations, and cheap housing inevitably contribute to the possibility of blood-borne infections. You will note that I always say possibly because, in fact, it is only a possibility. So, what today in a world in which we see more and more movement of people, including that of tourists, for which a vacation often means a new transient relationship with little protection and little knowledge of the risk involved, what are realistically our options? The first and the least efficient would be for the developing countries to invest much more dramatically in reducing the poverty that creates these diseases in the first place. At ICMHD, we believe that is a challenge for the EU and the countries such as US, Canada, and Australia. The second option is to improve screening of people on the move, including the tourists. This is easier said than done. There are questions of whether people should be screened before they leave the countries of origin or on entry into countries of resettlement. Both approaches come with a caveat that there should never be screening without treatment and never treatment without screening. Today, in the case of hepatitis C, where treatment is available that can vastly cut the transmission of the disease, issues of cost have become paramount. Similarly, today, tuberculosis and even latent TB have become manageable and treatable. In Europe today, there is no single country with a clear policy on migration and health. At a time of financial crisis and political questioning, the likelihood is that migration will continue to be seen as a problem kind rather than the unique opportunity it presents for Europe. Demographically, Europe is a dying continent, is no longer able to replenish its population and maintain viable taxation and social security systems. Massive migration is one of the few serious options Europe has, but if it does go this route of promoting migration, it will have to do this keeping in mind that health implication and the responsibility that needs to be taken. Thank you very much.